Everyone faces questions and decisions that require insight and answers as we move forward personally, professionally, and corporately in all areas of this thing we call life in America today. Hello, this is Joe Schofield, and I invite you to tune in every Monday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. as we talk together and hear from key leaders of all ages and backgrounds about your questions. Interesting, informative, intuitive, but always encouraging. Tune us in on BBS Radio Network.
Join Pastor Joe and co-hosts Ron Greer, Dr. Paul Hall, Stefanie Thayer, and Dr. Craig Thayer in Raising Expectations.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday night, and thanks so much for tuning into your show, Raising Expectations. And we're here to do just that, to prayerfully in the Lord raise your expectations, whatever you might be facing in your life. We are people of faith. We believe that Jesus is the Son of God. He died on the cross for our sins. He rose again, and he's coming again. And that tells us who we are, why we're here, where we're going, but maybe best of all, it tells us he's working in our lives day by day, all along the way. So we're here tonight to hopefully, prayerfully raise your expectations. We've got a wonderful show for you tonight. You're going to meet a very, very special person in just a moment. But to get the program running right off, I want to do what we always do and introduce once again our wonderful co-host team. These people bless my night. I'm Pastor Joe, and they have blessed my life every single week, and I look forward to seeing them each week. First of all, I'm going to start on the West Coast, and that's all the way down in Lompoc, California, near Santa Barbara. That is Dr. Paul Hall. And you all know Dr. Paul. He's been my friend for 50-something years, and he's a retired pastor. He's a professor. He's a Bible teacher. He is one very special man, and you're going to look forward to getting to know him more and more week after week as you have each year. And he's there in Southern California. And then if we go right across the nation to Texas, the great state of Texas, there in McKinney, Texas, is one of our favorite pastors in the world, is Ron Greer. And Ron is a great man of God. He is the counselor now with Man in the Mirror out of Florida. He's the next congressional candidate and a pastor, like I said. And Ron is, that about says it, right, guys? So Ron is very special. We're very thankful that we're all together. We just love one another in the Lord on this team called Raising Expectations. So if we go a little bit further to the south part of the north, which would be Georgia, right there, we're going to be just a little bit down to south in Dalton, Georgia. And there we have our special guest in the south, Dr. Craig Thayer and his wife, Steph Thayer. Steph is the CEO and founder of Quenching Wells. She's a health specialist, and we tell you every week, going to go a little faster today, but she is the best. She will teach you how to take care of your body, what to eat, when to eat, how to do this and that and the other, but most of all, how to make your life right with God. And that's the most important thing, because he keeps it all in sync. And she's married to a wonderful man. His name is Dr. Craig. We call him Tank, his beloved nickname, Tank Thayer, who's a trauma surgeon, and not only a trauma surgeon, a great surgeon and mission surgeon, coming back from helping people overseas as a missionary doctor. He's incredible. He also is a great author. His latest book is called Saved, and you'll find it there on our website. There it is, Saved. And God, finding God in the ordinary things of life. And that's where God works, in the ordinary every day of our life. You'll raise your expectations every moment. It's right next to my book, Legitimate Faith. And you can spot that later on the site. And that'll teach you about how to keep your faith rolling and keep it growing and make it legitimate. Well, there it is. TJ, thanks. That'll teach you how that works in your life also. So tonight we have a very special guest for you. We have, coming to us from Southern California, we have Denice Gary-Pandhol running for the United States Senate. We're excited she's with us tonight. She is running to fill the seat that vacated by Dianne Feinstein and to put it back where it needs to be. And she's going to be with us in just a moment. And just kind of whet your appetite a little bit. She's just about ready to go. And before we move on, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to start with Stefanie's special message that she gives each week. And we're so glad she does. Thanks, Steph.
No problem. Okay, so you can find out about everything that we have to share on this show, about co-hosts, past shows, how to get connected, how to give at bbsradio.com/raising expectations. At the very top, there's a QR code. You can give there. You can also reach out to Pastor Joe. You can learn about all of us, the books, all the past shows, how to listen live. We love to have you guys participate. We're just grateful that you come here each week, and you can find us on all the major platforms. So thank you. Thank you.
Amen. You appreciate your giving. Excuse me, Craig, go ahead.
No, I said, nice job. That was better than me.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. But you do a great job too. Got a good coach.
I try. Yeah, good coach. Exactly.
It was excellent. Excellent. You can always fill in. There you go, Steph. Keep it up. Way to go. All right. Well, moving right along, folks, we want to take you to our guest tonight. As I mentioned, Denice is with us, and we're excited she's with us. She is, and I'm going to read this a little bit for you, give you a quick background. She's running to fulfill that seat and get her where it needs to be and get her to Washington representing what's happening. Denice is a woman of great faith, committed to her calling. It's a call of God on her life. We have an opportunity to hear her tonight. You're going to meet her in person. The story, why she spent the last 24 months traveling throughout the state of California, listening to voters and sharing real solutions. She's devoted to America First policies in the nation and in California, fighting for national security, energy independence, the Constitution of the United States, has a great understanding of the Middle East and what that involves with Israel and Hamas and what's happening in the world, and also a tremendous insights into Ukraine and what we need to do to possibly look into peace, and what, as we pray, we are seeking God's guidance that way. She has great insight in this. So we want to bring her on the program tonight. She had a great place she spoke at today, hundreds and hundreds of people. They all wanted to talk to her, and she's stopping on the road to be with us. She didn't make it back home. Talk about dedication. That's the kind of person we want in Washington. So she's with us right now. We're going to give you the right hand of not fellowship. We're going to give you the applause heard around the world, just like when we started as a nation. Round of applause, Denice. We want to bring you on our show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody there. Really appreciate being on with you, and an opportunity to talk to the voters and your listening audience. I want to thank everyone for their patience. I know the lighting isn't too good. I'm sitting here on my car off the Freeway 5, headed north. And so anyway, thank you everyone for your patience and kind understanding. You know, if you don't mind, I think I'd like to start today by just sharing a little bit about what's going on in the Middle East, because I'd like to clarify some things that haven't been clarified, I don't think, by the media. We're getting a lot of reports that these Palestinian groups are calling Israel an apartheid state. As a Middle East specialist, I want all of your listening audience to be able to combat this anti-Semitism with this information. So first of all, in Israel, whether you're a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian, you can go to any school or university. Inside Israel, the country of Israel, people are doctors and lawyers and teachers and nurses and dentists and taxi cab drivers too. You can be whatever you want to be. It's a free country. It's a democracy. And so there's a lie that's going out, and nobody, I think, is properly explaining that truly in Israel, the only thing Muslim Arabs or Palestinians cannot do is they cannot serve in the Israeli military, the Israeli Defense Forces that are referred to as the IDF. And I think that should be obvious to everyone. just like here in the United States Armed Forces of America. We've had Islamic terrorists in our military that have turned on our troops overseas and in country. We saw what happened in Fort Hood, Texas.
Yes.
But there's been other incidences as well. When I'm the only candidate running that's had top secret clearances, I want people to know, intelligence community, there are events that are happening every day in cities across America, and you'd be surprised that almost attacks that occur. And so it's really important that Israel protect its country, and therefore that is really the only thing that as a Muslim Arab Palestinian you cannot do living in Israel. If you want to get involved in government service, again, you can run for office, you can become a member of the Knesset. The Knesset in Israel is America's Congress. So there's really freedom throughout society and throughout the culture to embrace whatever career choice you decide to embrace. So I do want to say that, and I'd like to make one other clarification just to arm your audience with some factual information. So the other thing that keeps being said that I don't think is being addressed in the media is calling Israel an occupier. Barack Hussein Obama came out in a public statement just this over the weekend, I believe, and said that, you know, what Hamas did. By the way, Hamas stands for the Islamic Resistance Movement. So Hamas, the Islamic Resistance Movement, is working hand in glove with Islamic Jihad. They work, of course, with the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. By the way, the United States of America should declare the IRGC a terrorist organization. And as your United States Senator in Washington, I want to make that happen. That's important because it actually does things within the international community that make it harder for the IRGC to support terrorism against Americans. But that's another show. But getting back to what I wanted to say about, you know, the lie that keeps being stated in the media about Israel being an occupying force, Israel is not. So under, you know, Israel has had to fight a war of self-defense, 48, 56, 67, 73. Israel is always having to deal with what is referred to in military circles as a war of attrition. And in other words, it's constantly being attacked. Shin Bet, which is comparable to our FBI in Israel, it's constantly having to prevent terror attacks on a daily basis in Israel. So to say that Israel's an occupier, so number one, and let's talk about the Gaza Strip. So when Israel was able to take back the Gaza Strip after it won a war of self-defense and under international law, if you win a war in which you were attacked, you don't give up the territory that you won, but Israel did. So Israel went above and beyond what nation states do in conflicts. So Israel won the war, and in the end, in 2005, 2004, 2005, under Ariel Sharon's leadership as Prime Minister of Israel, he literally had every Jewish man, woman, child, the elderly dig up their graves, move their synagogues, move their schools, move their farms, move their greenhouses, move their ranches, move everything out of the Gaza Strip. And it's interesting because those Palestinians, whatever they found that belonged to any Jewish man, woman, or child, they destroyed it. Even the greenhouses that would have brought them more food and an opportunity to have a better foundation, they literally destroyed everything. So when we hear the media, even on Fox News, talk about innocent civilians, it's important to note that the Democrats in the United States Senate and in the House and in the White House, under the Biden administration, they loosened the sanctions that controlled Iran's ability to sell oil to communist China and to other countries. So the moment Biden stepped into office, that relaxation of the JCPOA restrictions on Iran were immediately loosened. On top of that, our president and vice president and the leadership in the State Department has disobeyed federal law. So let me just explain that for just a moment. So under the Trump administration, when we had Republicans in a majority in the United States Senate and in the House, we passed what was called the Taylor Force Act. Taylor Force was a veteran from the fighting the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. He was stabbed to death in Israel. He was in graduate school. You know, he was a veteran. He went to grad school. He was there in Israel trying to study and learn about startup companies with his bride and his fellow classmates. He was murdered on the streets of Israel. Congress passed a law called the Taylor Force Act. And what it does is it prevents your dollars, ladies and gentlemen. It prevents your tax dollars from aiding or going to any humanitarian aid to Palestinians so long as they continue to pay people to slaughter innocent civilians in Israel. Yes. It's called pay to slay. So the more Jews or Christians you kill in Israel, the more money you make. Even if you go to prison inside Israel, pay to slay. So this is a Palestinian program. It's run by the Palestinian Authority in Judea and Samaria, what we call the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. So this is important, ladies and gentlemen, to know that the President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and civil officials within the United States State Department have broken federal law, and they're giving aid to these Palestinian groups. Even now, they're calling for aid, and they're giving aid. I just want you to know that's illegal under federal law. And we need to clean house in the Department of Justice, because these people in the White House and in the State Department should be prosecuted for violating federal law. So getting back to Israel being an occupying power, Israel is not involved in any occupation whatsoever.
That's right.
So even though Israel won the war, Ariel Sharon, the prime minister of Israel, packed up all the Israelis and moved them out of the Gaza Strip. So the entire strip is controlled by Hamas forces. And Hamas, from cradle to grave, teaches children, the men, women, and children, to commit acts of war. They teach them to slit the throats of children, to burn them alive, and do all the things that Hamas has done inside Israel on October 7th. Yes. So let's just be clear that this wouldn't have happened in Israel if we didn't have Democrats controlling the United States Senate. And I'm running to defeat Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, and Barbara Lee. Adam Schiff, number one. I have to defeat him for the United States Senate. And these Democrats are supporting the violation of federal law and the funding of these Palestinian groups that are taught in their schools and in their mosques and on the streets. These are the people that passed out candy on 9/11 and were jumping up and down, praising Allah that Americans were murdered on 9/11. Just like they're passing out candies and cakes on the streets of the Gaza Strip, civilians passing out candies and cakes, learning that babies and infants were beheaded and men, women, and children were burned alive. This is who we're talking about when we're talking about the civilian population. Let's just be clear.
Amen.
So if you're a Palestinian and you don't like this kind of horrific barbarism, you can leave. You don't have to stay there. And there are Palestinians all over the Middle East and in America and in Europe and Asia and everywhere else, because they're not forced to stay there.
That's right.
So let's be clear, and let's be clear that Christians are persecuted
That's right.
throughout the Muslim world today and in the Gaza Strip. And we need to be in prayer for them.
That's right.
And we need to be considering the Christians there, even though they may be very anti-Semitic and supporting terrorism. They're still our brothers and sisters in Christ, and we need to pray that they see the light and they're rescued. But moving on, if I may, I just want to make clear to the American people and to the people of California that are listening to your broadcast that this would not be happening if we had strong leadership in the United States Senate and in the White House, because if I was in the Senate, I would have been saying out loud from day one that without protecting and expanding the fossil fuel industry of America
Right.
and supplying all of our allies in Europe, in Asia, in the Middle East with their fossil fuels, Russia and China and Iran and these terrorist groups would not have the money and the resources today to fund this genocide, whether it's Ukraine or in the Middle East. And we need to make sure that Democrats and independents in California understand, as the primary is coming up in February here in California.
Yes.
We need to make sure that they understand that the United States military, 80% of it runs on fossil fuels, 80% of it. We have 41 fighter aircraft bases in our state, California. You have to be able to get that fighter aircraft off the ground.
That's right.
China has been building hypersonic ballistic missiles and burying them underground throughout China, and they've weaponized all the islands that they've built.
That's right.
And all the islands that they've occupied in the South China Sea. Talk about an occupying power.
Yeah, that's right.
They're not allowing any foreign nation states to take hold of any of that. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why. China has found trillions of cubic feet, trillions of cubic feet of natural gas in the South China Sea.
Yeah.
And they found billions of barrels of untapped oil in the South China Sea. So even though they're buying all this from Iran right now, because Iran can, because we don't have a heavy Republican president that's really fighting. I mean, there's Republicans in the U.S. Senate, but you have to be a fighter. You have to be getting on media, radio, and television up and down your state and around the country. You have to fight and make sure that the American people realize what's going on. I don't think the American people knew. I don't believe Republicans were making it clear to the American people that under Biden, Iran was getting richer and wealthier by selling all their oil and gas. And you know, we haven't given enough attention to the fact that under Biden, as he continues to destroy the fossil fuel industry in America, Japan is signing deals with Russia. You know, Europe signed deals with Russia. They've signed deals with Muslim Arab states. We're getting California alone gets the majority of its oil and gas from Saudi Arabia and Iraq. And think about that for a moment. Think about what that means. So tomorrow, while we're having breakfast in California, if Iran wanted to, it could close the Strait of Hormuz, because Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. And that's where all those dirty, filthy oil tankers that come to California, that's where they have to go through. Talk about an environmental issue. Where are the Democrats and independents?
Yeah.
I mean, we produce here in California, our great big beautiful state, we produce the cleanest oil and gas in the world.
Right.
Why would we import dirty, filthy stuff and not grow our own economy? Why not prosper the people of this state? You know, there's more poverty in California than most states in the union. There's a high level of poverty here. We need to help the people of California be lifted up out of poverty. And I'll tell
Right.
you, the oil and gas and coal industries of this state and this nation, we could lift the people out of poverty and provide the jobs and the economic growth and prosperity to fatten the pocketbooks of Californians and Americans, but also get America into a position where we have more economic growth and prosperity to be militarily prepared and have the proper missile defense system that we need right here in California to protect us from those hypersonic ballistic missiles that are capable of reaching the major cities of California.
Wow.
This is it's an environmental issue. You know, we've got to make sure that the liberals in our state understand that, you know, there's a little thing that you've all heard about in Texas, no doubt, Joe, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that where you're from? Is the state of
Yeah,
Texas?
17 years. That's where he is right now in McKinney.
And
Yeah.
Okay, you people from Texas, you know, California used to be the #1 exporter of oil and gas, right? You know
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
and you know that there in Texas, you've got a little thing called carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration.
Yes.
It can capture the carbon emissions off of any rig or oil refinery. I mean, we have, thanks to good old American ingenuity,
Amen. That's right.
we have what it takes to do the right thing by the American people and by the international community by producing clean fossil fuels, exporting it around the world. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Think about not only the economic growth and prosperity and the billions it brings to a local economy, but think about the leverage it gives you in the international community.
That's right.
If we're supplying all the needs to our European and Asian allies, to India, to every other country on the planet,
Right.
think about the leverage that gives you when you're negotiating with foreign heads of state and you want them to vote and make decisions that are in the best interests of the free world in America.
That's
You've
right.
got to have something, you have to have cards in your hand to play. And we need that oil and gas card.
Yes.
But I want your audience to know something else too. America has helped stave off starvation around the globe. And one of the ways we do that is through fertilizers that's a petroleum derivative.
Right.
And it helps sustain and maintain strong crops. You know, our farmers here in our state, and we should talk about that a little bit. I want to give some of you to jump in here in a minute. Our farmers are in dire straits.
Right.
And so we, again, when you think about oil and gas, you need to think about everything that's used in your daily life comes from those products.
That's right.
So,
Amen.
so we have to have them, and we need to have it economically produced. And in order to do that, we need to increase the supply. And in order to increase the supply, Denice Gary-Pandhol is going to propose legislation in Washington to protect and expand the fossil fuel industry for national security, for the economy, for economic growth and prosperity, to lower the electric bills of your homes in Texas, to lower the electric bill so people can turn on the refrigeration units in the summer and be cool and be able to afford it, and to be able to have that fertilizer for food. We can do it, but we have to protect our industries here at home.
Yeah.
Well, Denice, you're really unfair and spoiled everything. I had a perfect question, and you just completely answered the whole question.
I'm sorry.
Good.
Do it anyway.
My question was, given the whole climate worship thing, explain to people why that is a national security economic issue, and you just put it all together. So that blows
Well,
that
let's
question.
tell. Hey there. I'll answer your question better. Let me give you one better. So let's let everybody know that only America has cut its carbon footprint in half.
Yes,
Only
thank you.
America
Yes.
as a nation.
Yes.
Only America. If we were to end all of our fossil fuel production, we would not be helping the world today.
Exactly.
Also, I want to encourage and help people understand that as somebody that's been campaigning for the last 2 years and going up and down the state and talking to climatologists, one of the things that I'm hearing from climatologists is that are not on the radical left is that we don't need to fear global warming because according to climatologists, there's always global cooling and global warming. There has been since the beginning of time.
Yes.
And so we need to appreciate that. You know, we went through a period of time from the 40s to the 70s that was referred to as a global cooling era. And we were told that we were all going to freeze to death. But did we all freeze to death? No, we didn't. And now we're told we're going to burn up. But, you know, are we burning up? No. In fact, where I come from, oil and ag country in the county of Kern County is where I'm from, the Central Valley area of California. Where I come from, we had one of the coolest summers and falls on record. So I don't know about global warming. I thought it was one of our a cooling trend, actually. So let's see what happens.
Well,
I don't
that's
know
why they
that
changed the
that's
name to climate change, because it engulfs everything. They don't have to explain it.
That's yeah.
But again, I do want to appreciate your telling people how this whole idea of reducing carbon and reducing the use of oil is a national security threat. It's not simply one has to do with the environment and the economy.
Sir, it's a life and death issue.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something else that maybe your listeners may not know. I'm sure a lot of them do. I want to remind your audience what happened in Texas a couple years ago.
Yes.
When Democrats were controlling the electric grid, and it's crazy, but it's important for you. It's important for us to get out. I'm sorry, I'm getting a call right in the middle of this broadcast and it's distracting.
Of course.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Anyway, I've never done this on the phone before, so you'll have to forgive me.
Going well.
You're nailing it.
So, okay, here we go. So I wanted to remind your audience that in Texas, when they decided to use unreliable green energy sources. By the way, there's no such thing as green energy because those solar panels come from petroleum products.
And
those windmills can't turn round and round without petroleum.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you, your water freezes up in the winter. So what happened? People died.
Yes.
People literally died in Texas and in some of the surrounding states.
Yes.
So I think everybody needs to know there's only one reliable source of energy to ramp up and ramp down your electric grid. What is it?
Yes.
It's oil, gas,
petroleum.
And coal. Yes, but the oil, gas, and coal. It's the only thing that is a dependable source for our electric grids. And I'll tell you what, when people's lives are at stake, you don't want to fool around. And they fooled around and people died. Because that year in Texas, the water froze, the wind didn't blow, and the sun didn't shine.
Yeah,
and they turned off our electricity in the middle of it, believe it or not.
That's right.
I know what
all through the day, on and off. It was trust me.
And think what happened to those people in hospitals and assisted living facilities that depended on that electric grid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, think of those preemie babies.
Yes.
I mean, people died.
Yes.
So Denice, I have a question for you. So Craig and I are born and raised Californians, and we moved 2 years ago across the country. So we were El Dorado County. The water crisis.
Spoke in El Dorado. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about the water crisis, because that's a really big deal. And a lot of people don't realize that the majority of produce comes from California, the fertile soil, the Central Valley. and there's a big water crisis. So if you could address it,
Yes,
I would love
ma'am.
it. Okay.
So let's avoid starvation, people. We're hearing about food shortages. Do we want to starve to death? No, we don't. California, our beautiful golden state, produces over 400 commodities that are sold around the world to help feed a hungry world, to help feed a hungry country and the people of America and the people of California. So right here in California, we produce over 2/3 of all the fruit and nuts that are
And
eaten
dairy.
around this. Pardon?
And it's also become the dairy state.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Dairy is number one in the country here in
Yes.
California.
And
Our
wine.
dairy,
Just
our
gonna say
beautiful-
it.
Yeah.
our beautiful dairy cows. Yes, and don't we smell them off our dairy farms?
Yeah.
But I love it. I love our dairy
that.
farms.
I love it.
I love it. I love it.
I'm from Wisconsin,
I'll
the
tell
dairy state, and that was the one thing that they wouldn't admit for years, that California overtook the dairy state. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to
Hug a
interrupt you.
cow. Hug a cow. I love
Good
cows.
cow.
I
That's
love
right.
dairy cows.
Yes.
They're beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
And so we need to remember we're providing milk.
Yes.
We're providing milk for those children around the country. And we're providing over 2/3 of all the fruit and nuts. And we've been providing 1/3 to 1/2 of all the vegetables that you eat every day. But let me tell you something, that's not going to continue if we don't do something about the water problem. Now, I want your audience to know to vote for Denice Gary-Pandhol for United States Senate. Go make that contribution on my website, DeniceGaryPandhol.com. Denice is spelled with a C. I'll tell you what, I'm the only candidate that's even bothered, that's even talking about how the people of this state have spent over $30 billion. That's our taxpayer dollars. We, the people of California, we spent over $30 billion on passing legislation for 10 water bonds over the last 25 years. And guess what's happened? Not a single dam has been built in this state since the 1980s.
Yeah.
And let me, so what's happening to our food supply?
Right.
What's happening to our food supply is that the farmers are selling more and more of their farms to foreign buyers and to people like Harvard University or Bill Gates because they're going broke. We have ranchers that are getting rid of their livestock. This is the beef you eat, the lamb you eat. I mean, they're selling livestock. In some states, they're slaughtering livestock.
Right.
So let's be clear on what's going on. We've got $30 billion somewhere in the state of California that should be building dams right now. Oh, by the way, in case the listening audience doesn't know, it's illegal in our state. I don't know about Texas or Georgia or some of these other states where you all are from, but I know that here in California, it's illegal for a farmer or a rancher or anyone to have a rainwater capture system. Now, this rain falls freely from the sky.
Say that again. Say that again for people.
It's illegal
Yes.
for the people of the state of California, for people to build a rainwater capture system on their property.
Yes.
Now, think what a blessing. Think what a blessing that would be in terms of helping our farmers save a little money because they're going out of business. It's become so expensive to buy money in our state, to buy water, to pay for water in our state for their crops or livestock. By the way, cows drink a lot of water. Cattle drink a lot of water.
A lot of water, yes.
Lot of water. So it's very expensive. But think about what a fabulous blessing that would be if they could have rainwater capture systems. Look what the Israelis have done. Those wonderful Israelis.
Absolutely.
They have developed something called fog capture systems.
Yes.
And I just spent practically a week down in the Orange County area. And, when I parked my car over there overnight, it was like, why wash your car? Because my car was covered with water.
Right.
And I thought, wow, if they have these fog capture systems right here in this area, think about the low cost of water. So Israel, like Kern County, where I come from, has built fog capture systems that are providing pure, clean drinking water to residents.
Yeah.
They have rainwater capture systems. They're doing mobile reclamation units that can literally move around, and anytime there's any flooding, they can reclaim the water. Water reclamation, reclaim the water, purify the water, make the water available to their orchards and their vineyards and their crops, their farmers, their ranchers. This is all very important. It's called good water management.
Yes, real management.
As your United States Senator in Washington, one of the first priorities will be to propose legislation for water infrastructure around the country and to mandate it in California, because we don't want the people of America to go hungry any more than they already are.
Amen.
And we need to bring down the price of food. Let's bring down the price of food.
Starts there.
So the way we do that is we get that water infrastructure built so those farmers don't have to go out of business or charge higher prices to get us a carton of eggs or to get us a carton of milk to our grocery stores. That's important. And getting that food to market is important. And by getting protecting and expanding the fossil fuel industry, we can lower the price of fuel considerably so that it doesn't cost farmers so much money to get that food to market. And again, the price of food will go down. These are important things. We need to make California affordable again. We can do that by proposing this legislation and working to get it passed in the U.S. Senate and in the House of Representatives. Now, I have to talk about one more thing before I open this back up. So, one of the ways we can also start saving you all some money and making your pocketbooks a little bit richer is we've got to cut spending. We've got to deregulate the economy, and that President Trump, that wonderful president we had, he was working to deregulate, trying to get rid of those regulations.
That's right.
Like for example, FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, that just destroyed four dams in Northern California. So next time when you go to buy fish at the grocery store and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, the price of fish, it's gone up again. Well, you can thank a federal regulatory agency for that.
Yes.
So I want to get elected because I want to help people. And one of the ways I can help them is we can propose legislation to get rid of these bureaucracies like FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or how about the California Water Board that turned off the water to our farmers in some cases by 95%.
Yes.
So they couldn't even get water.
Right.
They couldn't get water because the California Water Board was turning it off. Because they don't care that our farmers go out of business.
No, they
Kamala
don't.
Harris says she doesn't care if people go hungry. They don't care because if more people die, there's less people on the planet. And oh my God, I guess we could save the planet that way. I mean, it is crazy.
Absolutely.
It's crazy talking.
Yeah.
It's
Can I
ridiculous.
ask you a question? Ask a question on that issue, right? I was in California back a couple months ago, and in a very unusual place, and talking to someone about all this water from this storm that happened that was being dumped into the sea.
Yeah, exactly.
He told me that was intentional by the state because there's no way of capturing stormwater. And I'm saying, what do you mean there's no way of capturing it?
How about
of course, everybody captures
reservoirs?
stormwater.
How about off-stream reservoirs? What about
Right.
that?
He said there was no way of capturing it. Is that true? And so this is state and This is something stated in polls and created a crisis they've created.
Sir,
Yeah.
you stated it perfectly.
Hmm.
You're perfect. This is a phony water crisis. Let me explain something to your audience, to the voters. If California just saved think of it, 5% of the Sierra Nevada snow cap that melts every year in the spring, we'd never have a drought again in California. There'd never be, well, let's say it, let's put it this way, let's word it better. There would never be drought conditions.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we don't have it. We have plenty of rain every year. Our rain is not captured. Our rain is not held in dams. We should be raising the walls of these dams so they can capture more water. We should be building more dams. We should be building off-stream reservoirs. We should have reclamation facilities. We should have fog capture systems. We should build desalination plants. My gosh, we're living along the ocean. Israel lives along the Mediterranean.
Best in the
Israel's built desalination plants.
Right.
We can do that right here in California.
No problem.
Oh, gracious.
We have more than enough water, and I've got news for you climatologists listening to this broadcast tonight. Hello, the ocean doesn't need our water.
Exactly.
They don't need a Sierra Nevada snowcap melt every spring.
Amen.
It rains over to the ocean also. Trust me, the ocean's getting its water.
That's right.
We need it. The people need it. But FERC destroyed 4 dams in California this year. I was just up there talking to the voters in Siskiyou County.
Goodness.
And all those fish, the moment those dams were destroyed, all those fish were killed. It destroyed the fishing industry. And all those poor people up in Northern California, Siskiyou County, by the way, borders the state of Oregon.
Okay.
All those precious souls that were in the fishing industry way up in Northern California, they lost their livelihood. They all had to go try to find another job. I mean, a lot of these people, this is a family. This is a family enterprise, generation after generation they've been in the fishing industry.
Which is a crazy thing that you mentioned, because we would watch our water get depleted. So we would have it come from the Sierras, El Dorado County, Sacramento County for the salmon run that had to be protected. And we have friends that are in the Central Valley and then even Southern California. So Central Valley, we have friends that have hundreds of thousands of acres that are rice fields. And then we have the citrus fields, and we've seen all of it, and they need water. And all of this infrastructure has been neglected for such a long time.
Since the 1980s.
And I don't think people realize that it has to be addressed, and we need it like as a country, not just as a state.
Right.
Right.
Hey, can you do one other thing for us while you on that issue? Because most of us from the Midwest and the North, we pump water out of the ground. We have groundwater.
Folks, we got a 4-minute wrap on us. We're going to a 4-minute wrap.
Ron, that was going to be my point. So in Woodland, one of my friends is the president of the Rice Growers Association.
Hundreds of thousands of acres.
They were not able to get the water. And so they've put in wells, and now California taxes the wells.
Yes.
Every drop of water, sir. Every drop of water.
And they're the number one producer of sushi rice.
It needs to end.
Yes,
I want you to know, I will work night and day to help make that happen. This is evil, and it's going to create increasingly more food shortages. So it's got to end.
Denise, Gavin Newsom is running for president. He'll come and change it all for the rest of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get you. We got to get you back. We're going to follow you all the way till you win. We'll help send you to Washington. If you could take like 2 minutes and give us a wrap on what you'd like to leave with people. We're going to put your website up.
I need your help. So right now it's November, and I need to start buying commercial time on radio and television. And we need a lot of money to do that. So people that have that, that can, write those checks. 500, 1,000, the maximum amount is 3,300 PAC money. We need it all, and we need to really get going on that, because we should be starting to run ads here in December or at the very latest January.
Right.
But we need to blanket this state with ads. I want to help the nation. I want to help make America great again. I want to help make California great again. We can do it. We can do it. We can make crime illegal again. We can make it safe again. We can secure our borders again. We'll talk about that on another show. I'd love for you to hear some of my thoughts on that. And I'd like to talk to you about educational reform and school choice and parental rights. We'll talk about it another show. But if people could go to DeniceGary-Pandhol.com, DENICE, Gary, Gary, Pandhol, PANDOL.com, make a contribution, I would greatly appreciate it. We're working night and day to win this thing. I've been working for 2 years, but we need more resources.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's the site for you. And there's also, if you want Thayer to come and speak, if you're a civic leader, somebody, there's the number for you to reach that was on there also. And we'll make sure that we keep that in front of you. And Denice, we sure want to thank you for being with us tonight. Just go to that website, follow, read this. There's all the things she's talking about. Great things that she's trying. I think you're doing a great job, and I think you're going to be the best senator we've had since we can remember. I think you're going to rattle Ronald Reagan's cage all the way in heaven. He's going to say, "Go get him, Denice."
Go get him. Let's fix California and secure the nation.
That's right. I'm really sad that where I grew up in Glendale is now the woke capital, I guess, of California. So work on them too. That was my home. Yuck. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're so glad that you tuned in tonight, and we're going to work to have Denice back with us. And number one, pray for her each day. Number two, think about people that you could do to help her. We need to send her to Washington. We need her to help California. We need her to link up with Kevin Kiley back there. She could do the Senate.
Oh, I'd love to get Kevin Kiley's endorsement.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get that rolling. We'll talk to Kevin.
Someone called Kevin.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So
Yes,
on behalf of
I
everybody here tonight, and Denice, you have a safe journey the rest of the way home. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me be a guest on your show, and thank you for your prayers and your many kind statements tonight. Thank you so much. Blessings to all of you.
God bless you.
Good night.
Thanks so
Good
much.
night.
Right.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Same time
you.
next
You too.
week. We'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. And remember to pray for Denice. And each one of us, we could use your prayers too. And let's move forward. God's got great days coming. And she's going to do it. She's going to do it. God's working. Let's stay with her. All right. Thanks a lot. God bless and keep you. Thank you.
Friends, thanks for joining us on this week's program of Raising Expectations. We profoundly hope you found it engaging and at times humorous, but most of all, uplifting, so that we may, with you, one topic at a time each week, become more encouraged to move forward to an exciting future in, as we always say, this thing called life in America today. So let not your hearts be troubled, your family, finances, faith, freedom. It can be a great future as we talk, listen, respect, and pull together. Please let me hear from you. You can reach me at 972-922-8556. That's 972-922-8556, or Joe Schofield on Facebook or LinkedIn. It'd be a pleasure to know you, and we hope you'll listen in again next week on the BBS Radio Network.